I've saved more marriages as a sleep doctor than I ever think I would have as a marital therapist just by getting couples back in bed together. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the Sleep Doctor. Today I'm going to be answering popular questions about sleep from the internet. What time should I go to bed? So I created something I call the Bedtime Calculator. So it turns out that the average sleep cycle is approximately 90 minutes long. We also know that people, generally speaking, have 5 of these 90-minute cycles. 90 times 5 is 450 minutes. If we divide that by 60 to get hours, it leaves us with 7.5 hours. Now we take your socially determined wake-up time. So that means whatever time you normally wake up during the week. In my house, it's 6:30 or so because I got to get the dogs up, start getting my kids ready for school, things like that. We count backwards from 6:30 in the morning, 7.5 hours, and that puts us at 11 o'clock at night. So I tried this, and it failed. Let me explain. So what I did was I went to bed at 11, and I woke up at 5:30. Tried it again, went to bed at 11, woke up at 5:30. So then I tried going to bed at midnight, and sure enough, woke up exactly at 6:30. So the moral of the story is, if you take this information and you try it out, run the experiment on yourself so that way you can figure out exactly what time you need to go to bed. Should I skip evening workouts to get better sleep? I don't like people waking up in the morning early out of their sleep cycle in order to go exercise because, quite frankly, sleep is healing. Remember, you don't want to take yourself out of a healing situation. But if people are going to bed just a little bit later at night because they're exercising in the evening, I don't think I have a big problem with that. But again, remember, your total sleep time is going to be incredibly important. And people should be getting somewhere between 7 and 9 hours a night. The number one complaint that I hear in my office is I can't turn off my brain at night. So let's talk about a couple of different strategies of what you can do if you're having a hard time turning off your brain. My favorite is distraction. So this is going to sound crazy, but I use it personally and it works really, really well. People count backwards from 300 by threes. Mathematically, it's so complicated you can't think of anything else, and it's so damn boring, you're out like a light. A couple of other things that could be helpful in turning off your brain at night: TV. I'm the only sleep doctor in the universe that says it's okay to sleep with the television on. The reason? Because most people don't actually watch the TV, they listen to it. And they kind of have their eyes closed and they're listening out of what I call the corner of their ear, and oftentimes it allows them to drift off to sleep. Podcasts are a great tool to use. Listening to somebody's voice on a regular basis, kind of monotone, can definitely help you go to sleep. A couple of other things that you can do to help you fall asleep a little bit more quickly or turn off your brain: reading. Reading is a great tool to be able to use because, again, it's a lot like listening to a podcast, but you're using your eyes, kind of keeping your brain going, and again, keeping you distracted is really one of the key messages. The final one is something called progressive muscle relaxation. This is a technique, and you can download a podcast that'll teach you how to do it, but basically you tense and relax your muscles, starting at your toes and moving all the way up your body. It's incredibly relaxing. Me personally, I've never made it all the way, and I'm usually out like a light. Should I buy a weighted blanket? Now, you've probably seen there are all kinds of weighted blankets out there, but let's look at the science behind what is a weighted blanket and how does it even work. What's really interesting is this was actually found in the autism community. What we found was in a lot of these children and adults, when they placed a weighted blanket around them, it almost immediately calmed them down. And so they decided to take the weighted blanket and move it to a group of people who weren't on the autism spectrum, however, had a certain amount of anxiety before bed. Let me tell you something. The number one thing that I hear before bed is I can't turn off my brain. So this was a time to try something and see what would happen. It turned out that when I gave several of my patients these weighted blankets, they felt like it was a great big hug and were able to kind of calm down, relax, and be able to fall asleep. The second thing that happened, which I thought was pretty interesting, was for restless sleepers. You know, people who are tossing and turning and kind of moving around a lot, having a little bit of a weighted blanket on top of them turned out to actually slow them down, calm them down, and give them a better night's sleep. So I've saved more marriages as a sleep doctor than I ever think I would have as a marital therapist just by getting couples back in bed together. And there's usually 3 different areas that they have a hard time with. One is noise, one is temperature, and one is firmness of the mattress. So let's take those in order. Let's start with noise. So some people like to sleep with the television on, some people like to sleep with the television off, some people sleep next to a snoring bed partner, and that's the noise they're trying to avoid. I recommend either a sound machine or earplugs whenever possible, especially if it's a noise that you really can't control very well. If you have somebody that lies next to you that likes to watch television, they now make Bluetooth headphones that they can plug into the TV so that you don't have to listen to it. When you're talking about temperature, this is a tough one. I've got some patients who they actually have different types of sheets. So I have one patient who actually cut a sheet in half and has flannel on one side and sewed a regular sheet on the other side. That way she could have the coziness of the flannel and he could have more of the cotton coolness for himself. But here's my favorite trick of all the tricks from a temperature standpoint. If you like it cool, take your socks off and put your feet out from under the covers. There's no hair on the bottom of your feet, which is good, which means you can dissipate heat much easier. So for people who like it cool, socks off, feet out from under the covers. For people who like it warm, socks on and feet under the covers. Hopefully that will work out just great for you. The final one has to do with mattress firmness. My favorite idea is to use a topper. So you get the mattress that's firm enough for the one person who likes it really firm. Then you add a 2 to 3 inch topper, maybe latex, memory foam, or something like that to make it a little softer. That way one person gets it soft and squishy and the other person makes it nice and firm. The most common question that I get asked, other than how do I turn off my brain at night, is what do I do if I wake up after 3, 4, or 5 hours of sleep? So it's pretty interesting when you start to look at it. There are a lot of different reasons that this could be going on. One, if you're a guy, you need to get your prostate checked, because if you have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, you could have an enlarged prostate. Let's say, for example, that that's already been taken care of and that's not the issue. In about 30-35% of my cases, I think it's blood sugar. So I start to ask people, what was the timing of your last meal? Most people have a tendency to tell me they finished eating by about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and they have a tendency to wake up around 3 a.m. If you look at that, that's actually 8 hours since your last meal. Your body's out of fuel, right? Most people think when you go to sleep, you kind of put the car in park. The fact of the matter is that you don't do anything close to that. You kind of put it into third gear, and I would argue in REM sleep, you actually stick it into overdrive. Your brain uses as much glucose in REM sleep as it does when you're awake. So thinking about sleep in that kind of way, you really need to kind of start to understand how sleep affects your overall body. If you enjoyed these videos, do me a favor, hit that like button and send me some comments so I know what questions to answer next in my next video. So you learned something. Perfect.